Liam, I think we're about 6 or 7 weeks away from the start of the new season. I think we're midway through the summer in that respect. Can you give us a bit of an update in terms of the preparations and the work that's gone in for the new season?
We've already, training wise, the lads have been in a couple of 3 sessions now, so just sporadically, just little top up sessions, and then we don't start back till the 1st of July, which is really only a 5-week pre-season element of trying to learn a little bit from last year. So at least because they've done the main bulk in these individual days, we can get straight in terms of getting the balls out straight away, which obviously hopefully doesn't give us the issue that we seem to start quite leg heavy at the start of last season. Well, it's one way of looking at it, but so there's probably a little bit of thought gone into it. I think the pre-season, which has been planned, it looks quite good. It'd be one I'd appreciate as a player, so hopefully, it sets us off in a good way.
In terms of the players who have stayed from last season, I think 12 contracted. I think, as Ian said, I think that's unprecedented for Southport, certainly in recent years. How strong a basis does that give you as a manager, not just the numbers on board, but to have a settled squad at this stage?
I think more importantly, it's not just the players and their ability, it's actually the character of them. So we know everyone in there. So you're not actually going into a changing room where you're going to have to try and find out which buttons you've got to press to actually get a reaction or start getting a performance. Most of the people here, you'd say, are solid, and it gives an identity with the fans. If you go straight down the middle of the team, Dan's got the supporters player of the year, Ryan's a big presence, Morgs is the captain, and Sam and Dion, so all of a sudden, straight away we've got a spine that we know which is our spine, and teams we come across. As I said, what we did over the course of the year, like, people get carried away. You're getting all kinds of statements coming out of clubs. Oh, we've signed this, we've re-signed this player, we've re-signed that player. There's 10, 12 re-signings, but we'd already done all that. So we went into the summer specifically with the idea we just want a quiet summer. We know the players we want to bring in. Obviously, a couple of them are done. But when you're taking them on loan, I said, you've got to remember, I said, their clubs don't bring them back into a certain day, so then they come across, so they're not under our umbrella as such, but obviously from the 1st of July they will be.
So in terms of adding to the group we've got at the moment, do you have in your kind of own mind obviously targets, players who are near completion and when they're likely to kind of be added to the group?
As I said, we've got 13 contracted players, so we need to bring in 6. One of them's a backup keeper, so that brings it down to 5. The 5 people we know we want to bring in these training sessions when there's a couple more already in, but technically they're still contracted to the 30th of June at other clubs, even though they've left. So I'm not worried about who we're bringing in. I said I'm quite comfortable with the whole situation where it is, and that's the beauty of the full-time aspect. Whereas we do know, which we proved last year, when you are full-time, you can actually go out and get the best loans, because the clubs want them out the door and they want them in a different environment to actually develop. And if you go back and you look at the 5 we had in terms of Regan, Liam, Marcus, Jordan and Matty Platt, every one of them, not only were they good players, but they were good lads, and they come in, they settled in straight away, and I'd still like to think that there'd be at least a couple of them will come back next season.
So in terms of kind of building the squad and when you expect things to kind of be nearing completion, do you have in your own mind when you want kind of the squad ready, or is it looking towards the first game of the season, or is there a certain stage of pre-season when you want things more or less completed? Again,
in the part-time days, I'd always say I'd want it done early, because we've got a different facility in the fact of being full-time. It's quite the opposite, and then you do find people who will wait and go up and trial, and you could turn around and to specifically talk about the lads that we've had on loan. Straight away, the ones who've left the parent clubs will look to get a deal, and if they do, good luck to them. If they don't, I wouldn't want to be in a situation that all of a sudden you get to the last week of the season, they've got nothing, and then they turn around and say, oh, listen, I'm available, and then I've filled it up with someone I don't really want. But so, as I said, I'm really comfortable where we are, where the pre-season is getting to, where the squad's getting to. As you said yourself, it's nice when you've got 13 players actually contracted and signed, so at least you've got a good 11 that we can put up straight away.
And you look at that group, I think the average age is around 25. You look at near enough all the players, they just kind of coming into the prime, really, aren't they? When you're looking to add to the squad, is that the same kind of profile of player that you're looking for?
Well, I think you've known me long enough that's the way I've always done it. I don't want to pay top heavy money for someone who's already given the legs to someone else. You know, why would I want to go and sign 35-year-olds? It's just not my style. It's not what I've ever done. However, I will say over the years I've had one or two who've been, you know, whether it's Gary Bradman, whether it's Chris Lightfoot, whether it's Neil Worley, etc., who have been massive for me. They're very few and far between people like that.
So in terms of the schedule for pre-season now, you mentioned that the lads have been in a couple of times. When do they kind of start full time, and what's the schedule going to look like over the next few weeks?
We're in on Monday. Again, it's just sessions on the track, and then we're in a week on Thursday, and then everyone's back in full time on the 1st of July, Monday. But you know, people turn around. So the luxury for us is, if we turn around our first week and say, well, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, they're in. They get double sessions every day, but then they get Friday, Saturday, Sunday off. So they do get a break as well. So, as I said, what I said to you before, the pre-season schedule, the way I look at it, it's good. We can get good work into them, but on the flip side, it's quite friendly for the players as well.
You mentioned about the schedule. Some friendlies have been announced, there's some coming up. There's a mix in there, some EFL development teams. I think Blackpool are due here. There are a couple of non-league teams there as well. Have you looked for anything specific in that schedule, or is it just kind of mixing it up?
Well, the Fleetwood under-23s and the Wigan under-23s, obviously the games that we can play during the day, which again is quite player friendly, you know, because they're playing during the day and then they're off of an evening so they can rest. It also gives us a good eye-opening bird's eye view of what's available to come out. You know, Fleetwood under-23s, and as you said, Wigan under-23s. Last year they were loaning players. You know, you've seen Crankshaw going to Cairns and Ashton from Wigan and doing well, and then Fleetwood had a few. Baines went out, didn't he, to Stockport. So you know, it's a nice little market for us to have a look at. Widnes and Bala away, there was obviously there's a little bit of a thing. We had Oxford coming in the league, so we wanted to make sure the 3Gs, now Oxford aren't in the league, but you know, they're two good games to have anyway. And then you know, Blackpool's first team here and Blackburn is, so they're really good tests. So there's a good balance, good mix. There's only 6 games, what we want, because I think last year we played too many games.
So in terms of looking forward to the season, I know there's obviously work to do in assembling the squad, but it's an exciting time, isn't it? Especially looking to build on last season and the cup successes.
Yeah, I'd look at it. I said, you know, we'll all be the first one to turn around and say, well, the first third of the season was horrific. But if you take away the first third and you looked at the league campaign over the second third, and the third, well, we would 100% would have been in the top 7 on them periods. I know it's played over 3 thirds, but you know, the cups are good. The FA Cup was good. Overall, it ended up being a season, an important season. Certainly helps with cash and things like that. But I think it's a season of pulling everything back together and getting a squad and getting people, as I said, us and fans get an identity with. And like, to me, I think the photograph of the Bolton game at the end, where you've got all the players sat in front of the crowd with all the fans behind, that probably sums up how the season finished.
That's obviously the on-field stuff. Just to touch on some of the off-field stuff for a minute. It's the first time we've sat with you since you've joined the board this summer. I know Southport as a club means a lot to you. You're a fan of the club. How much are you looking forward to being able to contribute as a director and kind of combine the two elements of the role?
Well, I think to be fair, the fact that you can contribute is positive. You know, I think Ian's been very transparent. Everything that's gone on, he's included me with, which is good, and it makes you understand both sides, which I've probably always had an idea on how both sides, they need to work hand in hand. It's not like a dictatorship. It is, let's talk about it and let's see what we think is the right way. I've been involved in 1 or 2 of the commercial things. We've got some good ones in, haven't we? So that's positive. That's, you know, going out and getting involved in that side of it, which is good. But you know, again, the club, what I'm saying, there's been too much noise, far too much noise. We just needed to settle and, you know, stop talking about the fallout and this, that and the other. I just think it's a line under the stand, and we just move forward and try and be as positive, try and live within our means, try and do it sensibly, and try and make it a happy club again.
If we move on to some of the more non-playing elements, Ian, obviously the club season started with a bit of upheaval with Phil leaving, but as Liam's mentioned, it's then become kind of very settled, and things have been quite quiet and seem to have progressed nicely. How have things progressed from your point of view, and where's the club kind of at now as we look ahead to the new season?
Yeah, I mean, obviously Phil going has made a big impact in how we progressed on a day-to-day basis. I think I've said before, I was used to kind of the Phil alarm call at 6 o'clock in the morning. Now, Liam, Steve and I, it's far more kind of let's work together as a team, let's look at the issues in front of us as we progress. We know what we need to do during the pre-season. Obviously the pitch is still the big issue, and you know, the commercial side of the club, making sure, if we go back to, I think I've spoken to Rob before about, you know, the three kind of factors for this pre-season were the community, the self-sufficiency and the team on the pitch. Now obviously Liam's already discussed the team, but I think we can't underestimate the importance of having the stability in the management as well in that respect, because obviously this is the first time after a few years that we've gone, you know, from one season to the next with the same management of Liam and John McCarthy. So, and again, Liam touched on the start to last season, but if we bear in mind last pre-season, I think there were tens of trialists at one point. So again, to have the stability in the management as well as the team, it is great, and that kind of, that side of, or that factor is taking care of itself. So that then leaves us with the community aspect of the club, and the self-sufficiency aspect of the club. Obviously it has been a quieter pre-season than the last two, but there's still a lot going on behind the scenes. In respect of the community, obviously we've appointed Darren, who has very much hit the ground running, which we knew he would, because obviously he's done so much for the club anyway, in the past with the under-18s. You know, he's come in with a full and busy project for the community side of the club, and lots of that will be coming out, you know, over the next few weeks. The pitch remains the big issue, but again, going back to the self-sufficiency, we're putting a lot of time and effort into really kind of getting the hospitality, the bar, the events established now. We've got 40 to 50 bookings for the next 6 months, so from a self-sufficiency perspective, that's really starting to kick in and help a lot. Jen and her team are busy. There's 2 or 3 events a week. If we can increase that further, all the better, because obviously those 3 factors all tying in, the more the bar works, the more we reach the self-sufficiency, the more kind of that helps Liam as well, you know, from the playing aspect and budgets moving forward for the next 2, 3, 5 years. That's why it's important this pre-season to kind of really get that established.
One of the main developments, as you say, has been the pitch renovations. Now, we've seen the progress over the past few weeks. I think the drainage is kind of going down at the moment. Can you give us an update in terms of where that's up to in terms of the progress, and is that kind of on course to be finished within the time scale that we hope?
Obviously what we really didn't need was rain and wet, so probably a week too early. No, I mean, we did lose 3 or 4 days because of the weather. I don't think I've ever looked at weather forecasts so much as I have the last week or so. But despite that, you know, credit to Abbots, because they've still managed to get through and do the things that we need to do at this stage. The drainage has gone in, the irrigation has gone in. We are still on track to try and get the grass seed down. Abbott's always wanted to get the grass seed down for about the 21st. We might miss that by a couple of days, but we're going to be there or thereabouts. And then hopefully that will kind of just hit right for taking time for the Blackpool game. In the meantime, we are still working with Everton and the groundsman at Everton to get all the plans in place to how best to care for that pitch as soon as the grass starts coming through. We've also now taken on our own groundsman, Paul, who is due to start next week. So again, from the second those grass seeds go down, Paul will be involved. You know, he'll be looking after it. He's got lots of experience in that respect, and it's something that we haven't had certainly since I've been here. Is someone who can really take ownership of the pitch, look after it, you know, and keep everyone else off it. He's going to be up at Skem for the next week or so, getting that ready for training, and then he can divert his full attention back to the grass and making sure it's looked after the second those grass seeds start to grow.
Great. In terms of the other developments off the pitch, I think it was announced yesterday that the club's tied up with the Elite Schools Academy to help the 16 to 18 year olds. Kind of how's that come about, and how's that going to benefit the younger lads as they're coming through?
Yeah, well, we've been looking at potential academy for at least the last 12 months. And we'd looked at 2 or 3 different providers. We had decided that this pre-season, moving into the next season, we would kind of put that on the back burner to enable us to concentrate on the pitch and everything that needed doing to help Liam with the first team. Because again, you know, sticking to those 3 factors that we keep coming back to, the first team was the priority. We were, however, contacted by Paul from Elite, who came out. He met with myself, Steve and John McCarthy. He ran through the programme that Elite have, and obviously John, having done something similar at Chester, has got a lot of experience in that, and it seemed a really good fit. And the advantage with Elite is that we can still look to concentrate on next season onwards for the academy, but we can work with Elite to really start to put that in place now, because obviously they have their system in place set up, and they want to expand with Southport over the next 3 years or so with the academy. Now, getting involved with them now allows us to really have input into how Elite are going to grow that over the next 12 months, which is something maybe we didn't have from other providers.
There's more of a partnership with them.
Yeah, exactly. It's something that we can really kind of grow, see how it goes as we're going, see how much we want to input or not. And obviously we've got John who can be involved, we've got Darren who can be involved, and that academy will run side by side with Darren's team, because I think the academy play on a Wednesday and Darren plays on a Saturday. But it gives those 18s and below in that side of Darren's the opportunity to look at the education provided by Elite, you know, and see where the kind of the opportunities lie with both. And you know, it gives us the opportunity as well, as the ground is improving and as we're carrying out work to the ground. You know, it's something else we can factor in as to, you know, what we can offer to Elite, because obviously, you know, now that we've got the hospitality, we've got the lounge, you know, we've got this room, they're all potential bases for Elite to use moving over the next 12 months. The club get paid per student that Elite take, and again, that money will increase the more that we can provide to Elite to use, you know, the ground as a base. So that's what we're looking at over the next 12 months. It's something that, rather than kind of committing ourselves on day one as we would have had to with other providers, it's something now that we can grow, establish and really have input to, which is what we wanted to do.
Yeah. When the club spoke about the kind of vision for the future 18 months or so ago, I know kind of the academy featured quite heavily in that. Does that show that kind of this is still a main priority for the club, that developing players and, as you said, the wider thing in terms of education, that's still kind of foremost in the club's mind?
I think any club at this level has got to be looking at opportunities as to how to grow your own players. But again, the real emphasis this season is what the first team are doing on the pitch. That was always going to be the case. You know, Liam and I have chatted long about this season and what we need and how we're going to do it. And we really wanted the whole focus of the club to be on the first team. You know, we want this to be a successful season. We didn't want to be kind of trying to balance lots of different tasks and jobs. The deal with the league really allows us to do that, because we can kind of not be distracted away from the first team. We can still have the input. We can still help as regards the players. I know Liam last season was great in respect of the juniors we had last season. I think we took one per game to allow them to experience the day with the first team, both home and away. So we have been looking at that, and we have been trying to really develop that. The agreement with the league allows us to get the right balance. It allows the first team to remain as the main focus, but we're not kind of turning a blind eye to the potential out there as 18 and below. So we can kind of balance the two now much better.
You touched on the three strands earlier that you've spoken about previously. One of those is the community, and I know getting volunteers on board is something that you're particularly keen on in that respect. It's obviously been pushed on the media side of things, and there's roles that have gone out in terms of people you're looking for. As you say, it's something that's very important to get volunteers on board, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean it's absolutely essential to get people on board. We have been focusing on a number of different areas, because as far as the club's concerned, the more volunteers we get in the crucial roles, the less we're paying in salary. If everything is geared towards self-sufficiency, then that has to be the starting point. There are definite areas within the club where the more volunteers the better. Paul, as I said earlier, is coming in as groundsman. If we could get volunteers to help him divot the pitch after the game, for example, come down a couple of times a week, then that's brilliant. We've got a huge asset in that pitch. It's costing us £250,000. We need to look after it. The more help that Paul gets, the better. Bob, the Everton groundsman, has been great in the sense that he's already offered for anyone who wants to come in to help us look after the pitch, to divot the pitch. He will train them fully in that respect and really kind of show us what to do. But that's not the only other area. I mean, obviously, anything that we paid out on last season that we can do ourselves, we'll be looking at. The student, for example, if we can get the right people in with the right qualifications volunteering as stewards, then it's less money that we're paying to Everton for their stewards. Waiting on staff in hospitality, people working behind the bar, every single person that comes in as a volunteer is going to save the club money, which again is coming back to the self-sufficiency. It's something that we do think is really important. I know I've had 5 or 6 responses in the last couple of days to the last tweet that went out, and it's myself who will actually look at it, talk to people, see what they can do, see what they can offer. So if anyone's kind of not sure what they can do, just get in touch. I'll sit down, have a chat, and hopefully we've got a really great team of volunteers now. I've been coming down each week. There's always at least 5 or 6 people here working 7, 8, 9 hours a day. I mean, that's fantastic. If we can grow that, then all the better. And again, that then links to one of the other factors in the sense of that sense of community. The more volunteers we have, the more the sense of this is our club. Let's look after the club. Let's look after the pitch. Let's grow the whole self-sufficiency as a community. It all ties in.
And in terms of that sense of community, just to kind of finish off, Liam mentioned earlier about the photo at Bolton with the fans and the players together, similar scenes at Prescott as well. Obviously, looking ahead to next season, that's something the club wants to build on. Is that the message to the fan base and to the wider town, really, that there is that sense of community, that kind of family spirit around the place that we want more and more people to be part of?
It's absolutely essential. It's essential that we do grow that. And again, I know I keep saying it all ties in, but it does, because the whole issue of the stability, the whole issue of the contracted players going from last season into next season, we really can't underestimate the effect that has as a feel for the club. You know, this time last season, and I think I said to Rob in one of the earlier interviews, this time last season, if you had to name the starting 11 for the first game next season, no chance, absolutely no chance. And the difference is that, you know, fans will be coming for the start of the season, excited to see the new players, but still able to recognise the Dions, the Jacks, the Ryans, the Dans. It's absolutely essential that we've still got that bond. You know, we know that this team has really kind of grown with the fans. You could see that at Bolton, you could see that at Preston, Prescott, and there's a lot of there is a lot of kind of the players wanting to be associated with the fans wanting to associate with the players. We've got to keep that going. We really do, and little things have helped with that. You know, the players going into the bar after the game. You know, there's a lot of kind of mingling between the two. Hopefully, any new players that come in will buy into the same environment, and we can keep that going for the next 12 months.